Alright, anything else we want to go into from the store? Anything that's happened in Apple I haven't been keeping? Because I kind of have been living under a rock the last things, just catching up on some back work and other things since we weren't doing shows. I'm a little behind in some stuff.
Well, I mean, did you want to go into the thing that's been the big one, the tracking thing?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I thought I'd put it on here, but you're right. Oh God, how did I forget about that? Hell, South Park made fun of it. How did I forget about that? You know, I covered this on that show people on that Tech Bite show people in your country did. You know, we went over it there, and we should go over it here. You know, I hate Apple. I do. Nobody will ever call me an Apple fan. Nobody. As a matter of fact, I'm sure if the Apple religion ever comes to power, I'm going to be burned at the stake as an evil heretic. You know? But honestly, on this thing, it's indicative of another problem. It's not a reason to attack Apple. It's a reason to attack the mentality in the industry right now. The concern is from the privacy advocates that this tracking stuff is on here, that these are logged, and that other people could access these logs. So anybody, in theory, could get access to everywhere you've been. You can do that already without logs, but ignoring that for a moment, it is a concern. And honestly, these devices should be treated more like the computers they are, and less like the link devices they're being made out to, because they are still computers. They need better firewalls, they need better security, they need all that stuff. The other thing is, I don't know why this is a surprise to anybody, that this is being logged, because Apple has got up on stage and, you know, talked about the whole iExperience and how you can integrate your iDevice into your iLife, and all your stuff's been pre-geotagged and so on and so forth. And I'm like, where did you think that data was coming from? You know, they have to be logging it to present that data. You don't want it actually logged into the picture, do you? So when you upload it to Flickr, Flickr has that information. You don't want that, do you? It's like,
yeah, well, that's what I think. From when people have spoken about it, that's what I've gathered, is that basically anything where, like, your photos, or say in the big location thing in the US Foursquare, anything like that, you need that thing in there.
Well, no, it's like, and the reality is every mobile device does this. You know, yeah. The difference with the iOS devices and the other ones is, like, the Android device, they get it for a second, and then if you're going to, like, send that picture to somewhere that would want geotagging information, then they send it with it. But otherwise, they delete it. You know, it's stored temporarily, and it's very rapidly deleted. Within 2 minutes, that data is no longer on the device. At least not in a way that's in the index. I mean, you could go in there and recover it if you're a techie person, but that's a different matter altogether. The big hoop-de-doo is that iOS is storing this information all but indefinitely in a log file. And I'm like, but I honestly do think that was for, like, iLife integration and things like that. I don't think there was any malevolent, we know where everybody on Earth is 24/7. I don't think that was the intent. Now, it could be the result for a hacker who's wants to go look at all that data, but I don't think that was the intent. I think there was no malevolence here, and I really want to jump on this bandwagon. I really want to go see Apple is the Antichrist and the devil is not. I really want to do that, but my ethics won't let me, because the reality is the facts just don't support that.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I think Apple basically made two errors, and that is, as you said, one, the fact of the length of time that the file is stored there, and two, the fact that the file is easily accessible. Those are really the only two mistakes that Apple have made. As far as tracking you, of course your device is going to track you for the GPS, for goodness sake.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. I'm like, you can track pretty much. People are like, oh, well, Apple has to turn on the tracking feature. And I'm like, no, I can track any cell phone on the planet. If it's made after
your cell phone, I can do it anyway.
If it's made after the year 2000, it's very easy to track a cell phone. But it's. I don't even think the problem is that they're logging it. The problem is that it's easily accessible. It's like, because, like I'm saying, for that iLife feature to work, you know, where like you plug your iPhone and iPhoto knows when, where, and what time. You know, because that's a feature in iLife. You know, you know where and when your photos were taken and so on. For that to work, the log has to be there. So at a minimum, the log needs to be kept until you do a sync. But even then, you know, if you still want the device to know, the log still has to be there. Really, the log has to stay there as long as the picture is in any way, shape, or form on the device.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I slightly stand correct. I think personally, Apple actually, you know, they've done three things incorrectly. The one thing was they, you know, like you say, that any time after a sync of the device to your computer, then there's no need to keep hold of it. Secondly, also, they shouldn't have made it easily accessible as they have. They should have made it somewhere so that in the time when it's on your phone and unencrypted, that it can be hidden somewhere where it's not easy to get to. And thirdly, they should have told everybody about it, you know, and not done the same thing like they did with Antenna Gate and kept it private and wait till they got found out.
Again, I want to jump on this bandwagon, but I don't think it was intentionally hidden. I mean, this is one of the reasons I'm a big fan of open source and open technology, is because people go in there and they tear stuff apart, and you know pretty much from day one what's in it and how it does it, and so on and so forth. Whether you're paying for it or not, I'm a big fan of that for that reason. That is not the company Apple is. Apple does not stand up here and go, this is how we're doing this. Apple goes, it's magic, you shouldn't have to think about it. It's magic. So they're never going to say, hey, this file's there. I was a little concerned about it when they started showing that geotagging feature and so forth. I'm like, I hope this is secured properly. And now we find out, no, looks like it wasn't. But I think that people are honestly making a mountain out of a molehill here. There's just... I don't think there was malevolence here. I don't think Apple was deliberately trying to screw with stuff. I really don't.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, the fact that it seems to be the thing that people are going up in arms about is the fact that Apple is tracking you, rather than it shouldn't be about the fact they're tracking you. It should be more about the way they went about it.
Well, no, and that's the thing. Google is tracking you. Microsoft is tracking you. Every fucking company that has a website is tracking you. You know what? I should go over the log files webmasters have access to. Y'all would never use the internet again. Yeah, literally. Oh, yes. Between all the sites I administer, if I wanted to, I could track a lot of people just all over the place. It's so easy. But the reality is, I have better things to do with my life. That's not why I care about those log files. I care about those log files when I'm looking for somebody who's doing things they shouldn't be, like trying to hack into the site. But you know, that's the thing. Now I remember where I put this. I stuck this in PC versus Mac. There's a congressional hearing. Instead of balancing the budget, there's going to be a hearing on this. I think it's May. Hold on. I want to say it's May. I think it's the 3rd, but I have to double check that. I think it's next Tuesday. You know, those of you who can watch C-SPAN should watch this, because they're going to call people from Apple and Google down and go, why are you tracking Americans? Why are you the enemy? It's like, it's part of this net neutrality hoopla circus. You know, it's like, we care about American security. We're for bandwidth caps and preventing innovation and exercising patents that don't let people actually get stuff done. But we don't want people being tracked by a lack of competition. The fact that that's what they're having the inquiry over is pretty much proof. Like I said, they don't get it. You know, it's like... Because it's like, oh, really? See, you're concerned about mobile tracking. Wow. And honestly, the one I see getting hurt most by that inquiry is not Apple. Because Apple...
Well, I mean, the thing is as well is that, you know, all companies have, you know, various reasons, you know, for wanting a, you know, I mean, all companies do have various reasons for why they've done things certain ways as well. But like you say, you know, you just never know. I mean, basically, no matter what platform you're on, you're putting the trust in the company that's built that platform that they're going to do things in a way that's not going to put you and your data at risk. And that doesn't always pay off.
Yep. Well, again, one of the reasons I'm a fan of open core, because if I don't like the way they did it, I can change it. Or I can pay somebody to change it, and then hope I trust them. You know, it's like at the end of the day, there is a certain amount of inherent trust here. You know, and actually, like what you're saying, trust is the big thing. Really, when you download any piece of software or buy any product, you're basically trusting that it does what you were told it does and nothing more. That's blind faith for 99% of the consumer, because 99% of the consumer wouldn't have a clue if it's doing something different.
Yeah, well, pretty much because of the fact that, like, well, mostly it's kept out of the average consumer's eye view.
Yep. Okay, anything else we want to go into, or do we want to kind of wrap off there at a very long, short hour?
No, well, I think we've gone through a large amount of this stuff.
Okay, again, we might go more into the Samsung or the tracking stuff in other shows. Give us a few weeks. We got to get our groove back.
Out of interest, when do you think that this will go out?
If I can, I'm going to try and get it up tomorrow.
Because just to say one thing, there's actually a Mac bundle going on at the moment with a whole bundle of apps, and it's still got 14 days to go, and it's MacLegion.com, and it's quite a good bundle of apps, and it's about $500 worth for $49.
Like that?
Pardon?
Spelled like that?
MacLegion.com.
Yep. Okay. I'll put a link in for all the Apple people that are touched in the head. Hey, just because I hate it doesn't mean I won't try and help them. It's like,
I mean, it's cheap as anything. I mean, and they're brilliant.
You know what? If anybody needs to save money, it's the Mac people. You know.
I mean, some of the software on this platform is expensive, I tell you.
Well, no, and what's really funny is a lot of the software on that platform is, in my opinion, like that. People misunderstand the term Mac tax. The Mac tax for actually buying a Mac and starting with baseline, it exists, but it's not that much. You know, really, I would say on average, it's $100 to $400, maybe $500. It can be upwards of $1,000 on some systems, but I'd say it averages $300 to $500 for a Mac. And if you really, really, really want to trade your firstborn to Steve Jobs, that's worth it. But where you really pay the Mac tax is in the markup that goes into everything for the having to deal with Apple. You know, the iOS applications cost more. A lot of the software on the Mac costs more. It's a funnel through thing, and the person who really pays for it isn't the developers. You know, if Apple starts charging them a fee, or they have to deal with more bullshit to deal with Apple, they'll go, okay, we're just going to raise our prices. So
that's it, pretty much.
Yeah, so the person who really has to deal with the end result of all the Apple bullshit isn't the people. It isn't the industry. It's the poor end user. You know, and that, in my opinion, is not fair. You know, it's one of the reasons I'm a big fan of platform agnostic. You know, there's a lot of Linux software I love. I wish it was available going forward, that might get harder. And that's something we're going to talk about in Linux this week, the whole GPL and thing stuff, because it's, yeah.
Yeah, well, just to add on that though, it doesn't look like well, I'm not sure quite what license it has, but for some stuff that is open source, the Mac App Store has seemed to have been a problem for some of it, because there is some open source stuff in there.
Well, for the first 18 months of the iOS store, there was a lot of open source stuff in there too. But then people who were its competition started complaining. Here's the reason a lot of open source stuff cannot make its way into the iOS store. The iOS store automatically puts DRM in everything that's in it, and a lot of the general public licenses for open source stuff basically say, as part of the terms of Surface, this is free software, it must stay free, the source code has to be available and accessible, which means that the very act of putting DRM in it is in violation of the user license.
I think the way that this lot got, well, I mean, and arguably, I mean, if like you were saying there, if somebody who wanted to compete with them hadn't complained, VLC would have been the same. But all these apps that I'm aware of have got third-party websites, so they've obviously got the source code on those websites, so it is accessible.
Well, no, and that's the thing. But all GPLs are not written that way. That's the GPL you need to be going with today. Basically, the source code is accessible. Even though it can't be in this marketplace, there's a link in the app, go to this site, it's all there for you. That's right, because I'm a big fan of keeping it open. You know, it should stay open, it should stay open source, but it's like, that right there in a nutshell is the razor wire of open source, open core, free software. It's like, basically what you're trying to prevent is people taking it, stealing it, changing like 2 lines of code, and then closed sourcing it and claiming they invented it. You know, we don't care if you change a few lines of code and redistribute it and even charge for it. We don't care, but we don't want you preventing other people from continuing to improve it. Is the real thing there. And it's, how do you enforce that without being in conflict with business interests, without being in conflict with proprietary software, in a way that protects the rights of the end user, but also protects the rights of business, and doesn't make you straddle this razor line in between. It's basically a bunch of legal mooplu that, you know, would make your head spin, but it's a problem of the industry right now.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess we'll stop off there, and sorry the show sucked, people, but you know, it is the show that sucks, damn it. That way, it's on purpose.